All right, suck in the guts, guys. We're the Ghostbusters.
And let's move into the sequel, Ghostbusters 2. I have a love-hate relationship with Ghostbusters 2 because I love the characters in Ghostbusters. I love Peter Venkman. I love Ray Stantz. Egon Spangler is, especially in this movie, he is so funny in this movie. Harold Ramis, I think, is probably the best part in Ghostbusters 2. And Winston is also there. And yeah, the second movie, it really sucks because I love a lot of things about it. I love where all the Ghostbusters wind up. I love that that Peter Venkman is still just being a grifter. He's doing some like terrible talk show, and he has a line in that movie where he's all, next week we'll talk about bald animals, and he picks up a bald cat and he goes, weird. It's just like a funny moment. And then Harold Ramis, when they introduce Harold Ramis, he's like slowly increasing the temperature on a couple that are having marital issues. And it is the funniest line because they're like testing a little girl to see what happiness does to her, and he's like, let's take the puppy away. Harold Ramis is so crazy in that movie. I think they implied that he had sex with slime. But I think the biggest failing of the movie is honestly the plot. It is very beat for beat, the first movie, but the stuff that made the first movie really work is kind of sped through. So you see the whole first movie, they're building a business. And that's the most interesting part of that movie, is the building of that business. And then 5 years later, the business went under. We didn't see it happen. And it's interesting where they all wound up. But then the Ghostbusters are back, and then it's back in just a montage. And it's like, okay. And I think the Ghostbusters cartoon is somewhat to blame for some of this stuff, because like Janine is wearing like goofy glasses like she did in the cartoon. And she wore glasses in the original movie, but they weren't that extreme. And I feel like the toy nature of the cartoon really kind of messed up the movie. The villain of the movie, Vigo the Carpathian, I think his name is. I like him, but also I think he's just not that interesting of a villain. The whole thing with the baby, I don't think works. As much as I love Bill Murray, I don't think his relationship with Sigourney Weaver is that convincing, and to rehash it, I don't think it works in this, and the inclusion of the baby just feels like they're turning it into a family movie. The first movie feels like a horror film. It's shot like a horror film, but it's a comedy, where Ghostbusters 2 is shot like a comedy, but it's almost like a family movie. It just feels so, I don't know, I feel like a lot of it doesn't work. And the only thing that does work is those characters. And Bill Murray looks like he doesn't want to be there for half the movie. And from what I understand, he didn't. I don't know if that's true. That's just what I hear. But it looks like he doesn't care about the movie. And that goes for like every sequel since. He just looks like he's phoning it in. Which almost adds to the movie a little bit, because his character is such like a grifter, and he doesn't care. But yeah, it's those character moments that keeps bringing me back to Ghostbusters 2. It's kind of like Star Trek 5, which is, I think, probably the worst of those first 6 Star Trek movies, but I love the character moments in it. Like the interactions between Bones, Spock, and are really what make that movie. And you can kind of look past the shoddy plot and that kind of thing. And I think Ghostbusters 2 has a similar problem where the plot, a lot of the stuff just doesn't work in it. I mean, like at one point, the nerdy little professor guy just becomes a ghost for no reason, and it's never explained. And I guess you could like write the explanation in your own mind, but I think it just really speaks for how shoddy that movie is. I mean, the first movie had a giant marshmallow man, and they try to top that by having the Statue of Liberty walk down New York. And it's just, I really feel like what they should have done, instead of having just a rehash of the first movie, or trying to have like a new like god threat, like Zool or Vigo the Carpathian. Instead of having that, what they should have done is had like a competing Ghostbusters team, like Spirit Smashers. And I think that would have, you could have had those same character moments you had from Ghostbusters 2, but you would have had a more interesting plot, because it wouldn't have just been another god attacking New York. It would have been, I guess, a more terrestrial threat of competing Ghostbusters, which I think would be more in line with the first movie, because the first movie was about starting a business. Second movie, it would have totally worked to have a competing Ghostbusters, and I think they did that in the cartoon. I don't know, I can't remember the cartoon too well, but I think that's how you could have fixed the movie. But I mean, the movie came out like what, 1990? No, 1989. I think it came out the same year as Batman, and a lot of people say it's the movie that killed the franchise, and it might have. I don't really know, but yeah, it's not a movie I really want to watch most of the time. It's like if I see Ghostbusters and I just want a little bit more of that, I'll throw in Ghostbusters 2, and I typically don't go anything past that.